Hey friends, it's Haley, and I'm bringing to you today a really exciting new video that I'm super pumped to be sharing with you. This is every YA release I could find coming out the week of February 2nd, 2021. This is the start of hopefully a weekly series that'll be coming to you either Saturdays, Sundays, or Mondays, depending on what I decide. It'll be either Sunday or Monday this week, but that might change depending going into next week. I will let you guys know. Now, most books come out on Tuesdays for chart and shipping reasons that I don't fully understand, but so most of these books, all but two of them, are going to be coming out February 2nd, 2021, and I will let you know the ones that are coming out at different dates. I have a grand total of 24 titles that I'm bringing to you today, so this is very exciting. I can already tell the editing process is going to be a nightmare, but we'll soldier on. It'll be worth it for the final product. Just a little disclaimer before we start. I used Goodreads for all of the dates and titles that I was able to find. And where I could, I confirmed the information on the author's social media sites. But for some of them, I wasn't able to do that. So if any of these release dates are wrong, please forgive me and please correct me down in the comments below so I can put in a correction in the description. But other than that, without further ado, let's get started. First up, we have The Afterlife of the Party by Marlene Perez, and this is written by the author of the Dead Is series, which is another urban fantasy series. It follows Tansy, a teen girl who gets turned into a vampire at a party, and her crush Vaughn as they chase down a band of vampires that have abducted her best friend Skylar. It's the first in a trilogy, with the other two books already having titles and covers, although not release dates yet. It's supposed to be a snarky take on the vampire romance novel, and it sounds like a lot of fun from the reviews. So I, for one, am excited to see some more vampire books because I feel like we've had a little bit of a lull in them the past couple of years. So next up is a sequel, and I think it's going to be a lot of people's most anticipated book for February. It's All the Tides of Fate by Adalyn Grace, and it's the sequel to All the Stars and Teeth, and the final book in the duology. The first book follows Amora, a princess of an island kingdom, as she goes on an adventure with a pirate in order to win her crown. It's described as perfect for fans of Throne of Glass and Caraval. The first book has 3.74 stars on Goodreads, and I've heard that it has Pirates of the Caribbean vibes, so if that's something that interests you, definitely check this one out. I, for one, am really excited to get to this series. I've heard really good things about it. So, and obviously for sequels in the series, I'm not going to be spoiling the other books. I'll just be giving you a synopsis of the first book in the series, so just keep that in mind while you're watching this video. Next up is City of Villains by Estelle, Laure, and this is the first in a planned trilogy, according to Goodreads. It follows Mary Elizabeth, a high schooler who interns for the police department in a city that once had magic, and explores the origins of Disney villains. It's described as Disney's Villains meets Gotham in an edgy and dark YA series, but a lot of the reviews said it read more as a middle grade novel, so if you're interested in middle grade at all, I would definitely pick this one up, but just keep that in mind while you're reading it, that it was described as reading more as middle grade. Next up is Dearest Josephine by Caroline George, and this one is a standalone, and it is a little complicated. It follows Josie, a girl who just lost her father, and discovers a manuscript in which she seems to be the protagonist, and it's described as a love story through time, with Elias, the main love interest, writing the manuscript in 1820, and Josie living in present day, and the love story between the two. And reviews say it's told in a very unique fashion, with like emails, letters, the manuscript itself, etc. So I, for one, am really excited to check this one out. Next up is Everything That Burns by Gita Trelease. This one is a little complicated, so bear with me. It's the sequel to, you may have heard me talk about it, Enchantée, which I have here, and I'm super excited to pick up. But if you didn't know, the title was changed to All That Glitters in the US. So the second book is called Liberté in the UK and Everything That Burns in the US. This is the final book in the duology. The first book follows Camille, a magic user living at the dawn of the French Revolution, who gets caught up in the court at Versailles, described as Caraval meets Marie Antoinette. First book has 3.71 stars on Goodreads, and this is my personal most anticipated release of February 2021, so I'm super excited for it. Next up is Fat Chance Charlie Vega by Crystal Maldonando. It is a standalone. It follows Charlie Vega, a fat girl of color living in a white Connecticut suburb who starts a tentative relationship with a classmate, only to discover that he asked her best friend out first. Described as a funny, painful, sensitive coming-of-age story, and it has really great reviews on Goodreads so far. So if you're into contemporaries, I definitely would recommend picking this one up, especially because of the representation, which seems really great. Next up is Home is Not a Country by Sagia Elhillo. And again, if I'm pronouncing any of these authors' names correctly, I'm so sorry. I couldn't find a resource pronouncing a lot of these names, so I'm just going off of what it looks like to me. If I'm wrong, I really do apologize. I don't mean to butcher anyone's name, but I just have to go off of what I can. This is a standalone, and it was previously titled Nima on the Other Side, so if that was on your TBR, be aware of the title change. It's now Home is Not a Country. It follows Nima, a Sudanese-American Muslim girl, and her family and friends, and the prejudice they face as Nima struggles with her own identity. And it's written in verse and with elements of magical realism, and it follows a storyline of Nima, who she would have been had her mother picked a different name for her, the name that she was originally going to go with. And it's described as perfect for fans of The Poet X, I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, and Jason Reynolds. So it has excellent reviews on Goodreads so far. Next up is Love in English by Maria E. Andreu. It's a standalone, and it follows an Argentine girl named Anna who moves to America for her junior year of high school and struggles with language, making friends, romance, and her identity. And there was some controversy over the author's ethnicity and whether this is an own voices story for Latinx people, as the author's parents are from Spain, and she apparently acknowledges her own white privilege in a disclaimer. Not sure if that disclaimer was just in the ARC or not, or if it's in the actual finished copy. But the author did live as an undocumented immigrant for a time, and she says that this is a sort of a oversimplified version of her own story. So yeah, just to be aware of that before you pick it up, if that is something that is important to you. There appears to have a love triangle, which I know some people are not like super psyched about, but just as a fair warning before you pick it up, I know some people like to know if there's a love triangle going in, and there does appear to be one. Next up is Love is a Revolution by Renee Watson, and it is a standalone. It follows Nala, a plus-size girl of color who falls for the MC of an open mic night she attends, and she tells a few lies to him that become harder and harder to keep up. It features a plus-size protagonist of color and seems really awesome with the representation. And I just wanted to read you a little snippet from the dust jacket of the book because I thought it sounded really great representation-wise, and just like such a breath of fresh air for people who don't normally see themselves in stories like this. And it says, in Love is a Revolution, plus-size girls are beautiful and get the attention of the hot guys. The popular girl clique is not shallow, but has strong convictions and substance. And the ultimate love story is not only about romance, but about how to show radical love to the people in your life, including to yourself. So I, for one, am really excited to pick that one up. Next up is Mortal Remains by Mary Ann Fraser, and this is a standalone. It follows Lily or Callie. Different editions on Goodreads have the main character's name listed differently, but from the reviews I read, I believe it's Lily, a girl who works in her family's funeral home and becomes involved in a mystery with a boy who may or may not be from her past. That's an oversimplification of this. Obviously, all of these are, so I'll link just in the description below all of these titles on Goodreads so that you can get a look for yourself on the descriptions, but I'm just trying to give you a very basic understanding of the plot. Potential disability representation in this one, it mentioned that an attack had left the main character scarred and disabled, so I'm not sure how much that fits into the plot. I didn't see much about it in the reviews, but that's just something to be aware of. And it's described as Edward Scissorhands meets 6 Feet Under. Next up, we have Muse by Brittany Cavallaro, and this is the first in a duology. It's written by the same author as the Sherlock Holmes series, which is a series about Sherlock Holmes' great-great-great-granddaughter that I've heard really good things about. It follows Claire, a girl living in an alternate history American monarchy who struggles for control of her own life as war looms. It's described as American Royals meets The Winter's Curse, and I know a lot of people love The Winter's Curse, so and American Royals. So if you're interested in alternate history, which I definitely am, definitely pick this one up. Next up is Muted by Tami Charles. This is a standalone, and it follows Denver, a young musician who gets her big break, only to quickly find it turning into a nightmare. And it has great reviews on Goodreads. Main character is a person of color. I believe she's black, although I didn't see it mentioned specifically in any of the reviews I read. It's written in verse. And it's described as perfect for fans of Elizabeth Acevedo and Jason Reynolds. Next up, we have The Obsession by Jessie Q. Sutanto, and this is part of what I believe is a duology, according to Goodreads. Again, not always accurate, but so far there are 2 books listed in the series. And it follows Delilah, a girl who kills her abusive stepfather, and Logan, her stalker, who witnesses it. And so it's a mystery thriller, and it's described in some reviews as similar to You or Pretty Little Liars. So if you're into either of those shows, maybe pick this one up. Next up, we have Of Wicked Blood by Olivia Wildenstein and Kitty Hayoz, and this is the first in a duology, according to Goodreads. Follows Slate and Cadence, two teens who get thrown together when Slate steals something from Cadence's mother's grave and unleashes 4 curses that they must defeat. There's a warning that there's profuse cursing in it, and not just the magical kind, which I thought was a little funny. And it's intended for readers 16+, so if you're a younger reader, maybe give this one a miss. Next up is Payback by Kristen Simmons, and this is the third and final book in the Vale Hall series. The first book follows Bryn, a girl who gets recruited to join an elite prep school for con artists. Possibly has con artists falling in love with her Mark vibes from the description I read of the first book, which is super exciting because I sort of love that sort of tropey romance story. And it reminds me a little bit of Gallagher Girls and High Society, which I was a big fan of both of those. So if you're interested in this one, definitely pick it up. If you've read the other books in the series, definitely pick it up because this is the third and final book. Next up is The Project by Courtney Summers, and this is a standalone, and it follows Lo, a girl who seeks to expose a cult that her sister has joined but ends up caught up in it herself. And this does explore cults and things of that nature, so just a warning of that. If you're sensitive to things like that, maybe give it a miss, but I, for one, think it sounds really interesting. Next up is Revenge of the Sluts by Natalie Walton, and this is a standalone, and it follows Eden, a reporter for her school newspaper, who teams up with 7 female students whose nude photos have been leaked to get revenge on the person who leaked them. And it deals with issues such as slut-shaming and revenge porn, and I, for one, think it sounds really interesting. Again, it does deal with some sensitive topics, so just a trigger warning for that. Next up is A Taste for Love by Jennifer Yen, which I think sounds super fun. It's a standalone, and it follows Liza, who's an Asian-American girl who helps with her family's restaurant's annual baking competition, only to discover that the contestants are all young Asian-American men her mother wants to set her up with. And she, of course, in typical YA fashion, ends up having feelings for one of them despite herself, and is trying to fight against that. And it's described as perfect for fans of Jenny Han, Jane Austen, and the Great British Baking Show. Next up is This Golden Flame by Emily Victoria. It's a standalone, and it follows Karis, who awakens an ancient automaton whom she goes on a mission with to find her brother and survive being hunted by her country's ruling group of scribes. It's a high fantasy, so obviously my explanation was very oversimplified. Again, check out the link in the description if you wanted to know more about the world. But it has an asexual and aromantic main character, which is super exciting in a high fantasy series. Really great representation there from what I've heard. Next up is This Is Not the Jess Show by Anna Carey, and it seems to be the first in a series according to Goodreads, although there are no other books listed yet. It follows Jess, a girl dealing with family, friends, and relationship drama when something strange starts happening in her small town. It's described as Black Mirror meets My So-Called Life, and a lot of the reviews describe it as reminding them of The Truman Show with Jim Carrey. So I, for one, definitely find this one intriguing, and I'm excited to pick it up. Next up is What Big Teeth by Rose Sabo, and this is a standalone that follows Eleanor, a girl who reunited with her estranged and very strange family after being sent away to boarding school and must adapt to their monstrous ways. It's a horror novel, and it's described as Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children meets The Addams Family, and perfect for fans of Wilder Girls. And last but absolutely not least for February 2nd is Yesterday is History by Kosoko Jackson. It's a standalone, and it follows Andreu, a boy who receives a liver transplant that grants him the ability to time travel, and he becomes torn between 2 boys, one in the past and one in the present. It has an LGBTQ main character, and overall just sounds absolutely amazing. I, for one, am definitely super excited to pick this one up. I think it sounds fantastic. Then we have one release for February 4th, 2021. This is We Played with Fire by Catherine Barter. It's a standalone, and it follows Maggie and her sister Kate as they start off by making strange noises in their house, and then the house seems to answer them back. And it's inspired by the story of the Fox sisters, who made their fortune in 19th century America by speaking to ghosts. So it's a historical-based novel, and that I think sounds really cool. And last but not least is a YA release for February 7th, 2021. This is One Carefree Day by Whitney Amazine, I think is how you say it. It's a standalone, and it follows Willow, a girl with OCD who is given an ultimatum by her mother that she must start taking medication or move out. and it does deal with alternative therapy suggestions other than medication to OCD. And I read a review from at least one person with OCD who wasn't a good fan of the representation, although the author herself does have OCD, so I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. But yeah, that's it. Those are all the YA books that I could find that are coming out this week. So hopefully this is going to be a start of a weekly series if you guys are interested in it. If not, maybe it'll sort of fizzle out, but maybe I'll keep doing it because I had a lot of fun researching this. I had 4.5 pages of notes for this, which is more than I've ever had for a video ever. Normally I just totally wing it. I had a lot of fun doing this. Please let me know if this was helpful to you. Please leave any corrections in the comments down below if I was incorrect about release dates or anything. I had a lot of fun making this video. Let me know in the comments anything you'd like to see from me next, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!